Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and happy Sunday. I'm going to start with an instrumental tune as I usually do, and one that's seasonal, since I don't know about you guys, but my muscles are strong from getting these leaves off my lawn. So this is a song called from Brazil called Folhas Secas. It means dried leaves. And as Jan pointed out, they're not too dry today, but they were pretty dry when I was raking them. All right, here we go. Folhas Secas. Thank you.
So I'm Chic Welsh-Charrier, pleased to be with you and honored to be your platform assistant this morning. And we are so happy today to welcome back Wayne Wilentz. We just heard him with this special music. Kind sir, we're looking forward to hearing your music later. I love it, love it. Thank you for being here. And of course, you know, we have our own Reverend Karen Gray who's speaking to us. Yay, Karen. I've done special music with you, been platform assistant with you before. I always look forward to your messages, and thank you for being with us today. Thank you, thank you. And this, the prayers I chose today came from a Unity publication, The Comfort of Prayer, which I found really quite wonderful. So please join me. Centering my thoughts on God, I listen to the wisdom that comes to my heart and mind through the still small voice of spirit. I trust the guidance I receive and take action to do what is right. I am blessed with clarity and freedom from fear. I now move forward with confidence, strength, and serenity, allowing the divine presence within to guide me. I open my heart and mind to new ideas and ways of proceeding as divine light illuminates my path. And so it is. Amen.
So we're going to do, I'm going to do a song called, which is in my wheelhouse, called O Pato, which means the duck, of course, in Portuguese. I'm going to sing it in Portuguese and then sing it in English afterwards, a translation by John Hendricks, the great jazz singer. And it's such a fun little song. So I hope you enjoy it. O Pato. O pato vinha cantando alegremente, quen, quen, quando o moleque sorridente pediu para entrar também no samba, no samba, no samba. O canso gosto da dupla fez também, quen, quen, olhou para cisne e disse sim. Vem, vem, que o quarteto ficará bem, muito bom, muito bem. Na beira da fora, para começar. O Chico, Chico no fubá. A voz do pato era o mesmo desacato. Jogou do seno como o ganso era mato. Mas eu gostei do final quando caíram na água. E ensaiado o vocal. Quen, 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 quen. Quen, 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 quen. Quen, 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 quen. O pato. O pato. The duck was dancing by the water. Quack, quack, the rhythm made him think he oughta. Quack, quack, he was dancing to the samba, the samba, the samba. O ganso. The goose was gaily swimming by. Honk, honk, he thought he'd give the dance a try. Honk, honk, bossa nova had him dancing. The new thing, the new swing. A lovely swan swam by in all her majesty. Then she loosened up. Oh, Chico, Chico, no fupa. She joined the duck and goose and did the samba too. You should have seen the kind of samba she could do. They did the samba so long they fell right in the water. Then when they're swimming away, honk, 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 honk. Quack, 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 quack. Quang, 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 quang. Oh, pato. Isn't that fun? Quang, by the way, is Portuguese for quack. And of course, when I first heard the song, I thought they were singing to me, Wayne, Wayne, Wayne. Not true.
Thank you for that, Wayne. I was looking forward to hearing you. You know, we've talked about that song. I've never heard you do it before.
Yeah, because it's hard.
Well, you did great. Thank you for that.
You. Well, the Portuguese is hard. The English is fun. But thank you.
Well, I don't think anyone on here is judging your Portuguese for sure. So.
Let's hope.
So everybody, I asked Wayne for that song because ducks come up in my talk, okay? So my talk today is for everybody. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, but I do want to just mention that it is particularly directed to that one or two among us who might be feeling some anxiety this week. And I'm starting with a story from my own life from the late 90s. Lake Titicaca is the largest, the highest navigable lake in the world. And it's situated between Peru and Bolivia. And in the late 90s, I visited Peru. And one day, my friend and I, we were in the little town of Puno. You don't go there for anything. There's not really much to do in Puno except visit the lake. So this one day, we got on a shabby little boat to visit some villages on some islands, including some man-made floating islands on the lake. So it's really interesting and very beautiful. After touring the villages that day, we went back to our shabby little boat to head back to the town. And it was about a 2-hour boat trip to get back. And I guess nobody had checked the weather forecast because we suddenly encountered a storm. Now, our crew, you could call it a crew. It was 2 guys. One was like a middle-aged guy who seemed to be making the decisions. And then there was a young guy, a teenager, who actually was driving the boat. And the older guy told me that at one point, he said, this is the most serious storm he had ever seen on the lake, which I thought was really something considering that he makes his living on that lake. And you know what? It just got worse and worse from there. It got really serious. Now, we knew that this was a pretty informal kind of operation. When we first got to the boat, the guy who took our money, he had to keep a passenger log. So he, put our names down on this list. But then the column where it says passport number, he didn't even ask us for passports. He just threw down a bunch of random digits. That's all he was doing, right? And so this was the kind of operation it was, and we were just there for the adventure. And I remember as this storm kicked up and got really pretty severe, this young guy was standing on the very edge, the outer edge of the boat, trying to steer and maintain control of the boat and keep us upright. And all he had on for protection was black plastic garbage bags. This is how humble it was. In fact, the fuel tank on this boat, I don't know much about boats, but I know this isn't how it's supposed to be. It was a big plastic jug of gasoline in the middle of the boat with a rubber hose extending from the jug into the engine, kept in place by a wadded up paper towel. So the boat was rickety. And as the storm got really, really bad, I'm looking around thinking, well, if we go, capsize, this boat will likely just fall right apart, which is great because then pieces will come apart that we can float on. And I'm looking around thinking, what's going to break off that will be good for floating? And if I get something that's good for floating, do I keep it or do I give it to somebody else who needs it? And I've got to remember to kick my shoes off because they're going to weigh me down. And should I swim toward that shore that I can see, which is really far away, but at least it's in the direction of the current, or should I swim toward that one, which is a little closer? But the truth is, it would have made no difference. I wouldn't have stood a chance. The lake, it gets cold. It's high altitude, and every night of the year it goes below freezing, and it was storming. So it was just a really, really scary moment. Now, the boat is only about half sheltered, so we were all drenched. There were about 12 of us, 12 passengers, and we were all soaking wet from the rain and from the lake water. And I sometimes in a crisis, my response is to get really calm. And that was what I did on this day. And I happened to be next to a couple of German guys, and they were being really German about it. And so the three of us were the only ones who were really just stoic. And we were just holding on with all our might while trying to carry on a normal conversation. And the guy said, I remember him saying to me, "Oh, you're from Washington, D.C. We've been to Washington, D.C. Please stand behind the yellow line." That was how he remembered Washington, D.C. And so every other passenger on the boat was crying and screaming and vomiting. And I thought it was kind of cool that at one point, when a lady screamed out, "We're all going to die," I knew what she was saying, even though she said it in Italian, and I don't even speak Italian. So I thought that was really great. So as we were there and truly afraid for our lives, I looked out beyond our boat. I looked out to the water, and I could see about half a dozen boats. They were certainly more substantial than our itty bitty little boat. And yet they were being tossed around in this storm and looking extremely precarious. And the image that came to me at that moment was they looked like rubber ducks in a jacuzzi, just being tossed around like there's nothing to hold them down. Now, in those days, I didn't have a very established spiritual practice. I did have a sense of something great, something certainly greater than me and benevolent that would matter in my life. And I didn't really have a name for it. I didn't use the word God much in those days, but the term Mother Nature felt relevant. So I just started to focus, concentrate on Mother Nature and on my alliance with Mother Nature, and how for sure she would have goodwill toward us and help us to get back to the shore. And then I did something really smart, because as I said, when I looked outside the boat, I could see all these boats getting tossed around, and that was really terrifying to see. But if I made a little more effort and looked out kind of the other direction, there weren't any boats on that side. There was just this huge, expansive lake. And that meant I could look farther out, and I didn't see all the turbulence because I was looking farther out. And I could see that the surface of the water was essentially flat. And that's what I started to say again and again. The surface of the water is essentially flat. Because in saying that and willing that, I knew that there's no reason for the boat to tip over when the surface of the water is essentially flat. You see, I couldn't control the boat, and I couldn't control the storm, but I could control my perspective, and I could control my response. And so that's what I did. I didn't look at the chaos that was nearby. I took a longer view. The lake is huge. And when I locked arms with Mother Nature and affirmed this, it was a statement of truth, not a wish. Why wouldn't our boat stay upright with the water being flat as it is? So we did make it to shore. And you know that feeling that you have when you're in your car, like on a rainy day or a wintry day, and your car kind of starts to skid, you lose control, and for like 15 seconds, you do not know if you're going to get control back? I gotta say, we had that feeling for about 2 hours, but we made it. So I coped with that crisis by getting super calm. But, once we were on the shore, I just wanted to collapse. All my strength was gone. And I just wanted to crawl to the nearest taxi cab, get back to my hotel, get in bed, and sleep for the next 3 days until my flight was heading back home again. But, all these other people who'd been energizing themselves with all their activity on the boat, they were all excited and cheering. And then the emotive Italians wanted to insist that we all get together for a group photo. And I was just like, oh, God, I found out I understood that too. Tutto il gruppo. We had to all get together for the photo. And sometimes, you just do it because it will take longer to kind of explain, no, I really, really don't have it in me to do this. So we did it. So that was, certainly one of the most scary experiences in my life. And I'm not somebody who seeks out fear. I don't watch scary movies. I don't even like, roller coasters, just because why have that? I'm not into that kind of adrenaline. But sometimes they just happen. And what I do really like is watching, observing, understanding the way out of that fear feeling. I like watching how we solve it, how we release the clenched stomach and the tight chest and the panicked brain, because we do. We somehow manage. And, a lot of us are feeling some of that fear now because we don't know what's coming up. We don't know what's coming up Tuesday, but clearly it's beyond Tuesday. We have election day. There's been a lot of talk of mayhem and violence. So, I couldn't control what was happening on the lake that day. And we're all feeling a lack of control over what's happening with the election and what's happening, in our country overall. We don't know if there's going to be we don't know if there's going to be a transition of power, and we don't know if it's going to be peaceful if there is one. So to put it lightly, a lot of folks are on edge. I was reading Mark Fisher's Washington Post column last weekend, and he quoted a longtime political consultant who said this: "I've never seen anything like it. Even the most balanced mainstream people are talking about this election in language that is more cataclysmic than anything I've ever heard." And that kind of summarizes what it looks like we're going through. And when we think and think and think about it, it's one thing to get informed, but obsessing about it, and there's so much opportunity to obsess these days. I mean, I'm here at home surrounded by all these wonderful books I could be reading, and I find myself just doom scrolling through the news and just reading one, the next article and the next article and the next article. And it turns out it doesn't really help. There's so much to read about with the pandemic and the protests and the military responses to the protests and the wildfires. It is no wonder that we feel like we're running on empty. But we're actually not. Like on the boat, we can control our perspective. We do have that. And we can control our responses. We just have to remember who we are. There's so much coming at us. But if we remember who we are and what we know there's one presence and one power. That's not something just to know when we're feeling good about that one presence and one power. That's something to know and affirm when it's getting a little shaken up. We're human, and there are going to be moments of weakness or forgetfulness, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes we're going to have those feelings of fear and anxiety. But my wise twin sister said something to me recently. We were just talking about some challenges she's been going through and the way she was feeling about it, when she just said, it's okay to have sadness. I just don't want sadness to have me. And yeah, it's okay to have a little anxiety. Just don't let it have you. Don't let it take you over. It's okay to have those moments of fear, but just don't give yourself away to it. The surface of the water is essentially flat. And the way forward is essentially forward. The other day I heard or I read Barack Obama was saying that he doesn't really worry about his achievements being turned back because he knows that progress is not always linear. And it's not. It's not always linear. It goes forward and backward and it zigzags, but it is essentially forward. No matter what, we're going to have some good days and some bad days, and we're here to affirm what is good and to overcome what is bad, and we can do it. If anyone can do it, we can do it. In fact, we're here to help. There's another story I think about when I think about my own experience with fear. And, anytime we think about an experience with fear, when you recognize, well, I'm not in fear right now, so clearly you get out of it. So go ahead and just choose to get out of it. This story, this is brief. This is back in 2003. I was up in the Bronx. It was for a 5-day intensive at the end of my seminary studies for the interfaith seminary program. We were at a monastic retreat center, really beautiful, right on the Hudson River. So this was August 14th. There were about 50 of us, and we had an all-day session in this one beautiful meeting room. and one whole wall was windows, and the windows looked over the river facing west. You can imagine that it was really very beautiful. We didn't have lights on because, we didn't need lights on. We had all that sunlight coming in. And then as the evening approached, we were enjoying, how pretty the sky was looking as it changed. We didn't realize until pretty late that there was actually no electricity. When we finally did go to turn on the lights, we didn't know that had happened or when it had happened. We found out as we checked it out, there was no electricity in the whole center. And as we inquired further, we found out that there was no electricity in New York or a big old chunk of the Northeast United States. This was a blackout. So this was August of 2003. And at that point, 9/11 was still pretty recent. And so we all had the same thought, terrorists. And then, that's plenty to be upset about right there. And, here we've been having this really uplifting, empowering time together. And suddenly this sense of doom was trying to take over. And it was compounded by the fact that participants had come in from all over the country. So we were all separated from our loved ones and our families and just didn't know what was happening with them. A few people went out to their cars to listen to the radio in their cars. And meanwhile, the dean of our program, Dean Rain Teller, she took beautiful command of our attention and said to us, "Remember this, fear and love cannot exist in the same space. I'm choosing love. What about you?" Now, she wasn't telling us anything that we didn't know, but we definitely needed the reminder at that moment. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but I will offer these reminders. Fear and love cannot occupy the same space, and anxiety and love cannot occupy the same state of mind, and bitterness and love cannot occupy the same heart space. So what are we going to choose? What do we want to choose? On that particular hot summer day, we were all relieved. After a couple of hours, we found out that it was just a blackout, no malevolence involved, no terrorists or anybody else. And to tell you the truth, it ended up being lovely. We had this wonderful candlelight evening. They had already told us to be prepared to wear all white for our ceremony that evening. It was gorgeous. And then over the weekend, the next couple of days, we had ceremonies and programs in Manhattan. And so I actually got to be in Manhattan for this very unusual experience of the skyline without lights lighting up the windows. And the city was quiet because there was no subway running underground and there were no air conditioning units and windows operating. It was quiet, it was peaceful, it was beautiful, really something very, very special. We made our way out of that fear, and we found out not only that we have it in us to make our way out of fear, but we found out that we weren't actually at risk. Anyway, that had been, you might say, like our imaginations getting the best of us. And I developed and still have a deep, deep sense of appreciation and respect for Dean Rain Teller for grabbing that moment and helping us all correct course and get back to what we know. Now, kind of around that time, something else happened too, and that is that I was up in Baltimore at a hotel meeting room setting up to give a seminar. While I was setting up, the hotel manager came in. The hotel was having like a 40th anniversary celebration, and so they had all these little souvenirs all around the place. And he handed me, well, he was across the room from me, but he just goes, "Here, do you want these?" And he had some little yellow rubber ducks. And I said, "Oh, sure." They had the hotel logo on them. I said, "Okay, sure." Now, this is before I had Dorothy. So at that point, I didn't have like all that kind of memory of little rubber ducks for my kid. When I saw rubber ducks, it made me think of one thing, and that was Lake Titicaca. I saw those rubber ducks, and it brought me back to that memory of seeing those boats being tousled around on the surface of the water. And it brought back a sense of vulnerability as I remembered that, and that uncertainty that I'd felt that day. So anyway, I carried on. I gave my seminar. And so a couple hours later, I'm all done and I've wrapped up and I'm now packing up the materials around the room. And I get over to where the manager had come in to check on me. And I looked down at the rubber ducks and then I realized they weren't ducks. They were little whales. They were little yellow rubber whales. And it dawned on me, whales are really good swimmers, even better than ducks, which means that maybe the threat that I feared was greater than the threat that actually existed. And sometimes I might think of myself as that little rubber duck when I'm actually more of a rubber whale, totally capable and not at all at risk. The whales would be just fine. So, friends, we can, bring out our inner little rubber whale. We are totally capable. We are not as much at risk as it feels like sometimes. We will get through tomorrow and even the next day and the next day and the next day. So just, stay close to home. Of course, if you haven't voted, you got to get out and do that. But be good to yourselves. Look up from the news. There's a Unity minister named Tom Thorpe. I listened to him on a podcast. And he said in something I heard the other day, don't let anything overcome you just by the anticipation of it. Oh my God, we are really suffering from anticipation these days. So let's take that back. All right, let's not give in to the anticipation. Take a long view. Don't look at the mayhem that's so nearby. That's what presents itself to us, but that's not the totality of what's available. When our energies are up, the possibilities for good are increased. Eric Butterworth says that we tend to have negative thoughts with more feeling. And of course, that gives them more power. There's a lot to be careful about here. This is a time to be careful. We can direct our thinking and our energy to favorable conditions. We need to look out at the far off horizon, link arms with God, with Mother Nature, with your Unity community, and affirm the surface of the water is essentially flat. There is no reason we're going to capsize. Maybe some rough water for a while, but look out ahead. It is smooth sailing eventually. We will get there. And you know why we need to do it? We need to do it because we are part of the collective consciousness. We're an important part of the collective consciousness. You are in it for me. So when you manage to keep your perspective calm and peaceful, that helps me to do the same. And I thank you for that. I am counting on you. We all do that for one another. You never know where you're going to find a metaphysician, right? So yesterday I was reading Kathleen Parker's column in the Washington Post. I mean, I like Kathleen Parker, but I didn't know she was capable of saying something like this. So I want to just share with you some of my favorite words from yesterday's piece. She said, if we assume doomsday scenarios are inevitable, we unconsciously contribute to their greater likelihood. Leadership is needed, but each of us is the leader of his or her own life. So take a deep breath and remember who you are. That's what I wanted to share with you today. And before we go into a meditation, and in this meditation, I want us to reclaim in a joyful celebration kind of way, the energy, the knowledge, the confidence, all the good feeling, the faith that we all have. We've been building it, cultivating it, sharing it, exchanging it for years. And it's here for us. So first I want to share this part of a poem. It's from poet Dorothy Hunt. And here's what she says. Do you think peace will come some other place than here? Some other time than now? In some other heart than yours? Peace is this moment without judgment. That is all. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without thinking that it should be some other way. that you should feel some other thing, that your life should unfold according to your plans. Peace is this moment without judgment. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. And you know what Byron Katie says? If you're not happy with how things are and you put up a lot of resistance, you're basically just having an argument with reality. And if you start arguing with reality, that is an argument you will lose. So, we got to relax that resistance muscle and flex the confidence muscle. We've got it. You all have been showing it to me. I've been trying to show it to you. We've been sharing it with one another. You all mean the world to me. So we are here with each other, for each other. Let's spend some time in meditation and let this be a time of release and relief. And I, for one, am going to start by kind of loosening up my body just a little bit. And you might want to do the same, just like your neck, your shoulders, the jawbone. And be comfortable in the way you know best, truly comfortable. Close your eyes. If you don't want to, you can just relax your eyes. But we're going to do some visualizing, so closing your eyes might help. And I would like us all to take a few slow, full, and gentle breaths. I'm not going to count, just at your own pace. Nourish yourself. The nourishment of this breath is all yours, and you deserve it. It's relaxing. And I have a direction for you now. I'd like you to wrap your arms around yourself like a hug. All right? You can comfort yourself like a hug. And now this is why it might be good to have your eyes closed. Envision standing before you somebody you care about, somebody you haven't been able to hug for a while. Maybe a member of this community. We hug a lot, but it can be anybody. Anybody who's lucky enough to know you and you want to hug that person. And as you feel your arms wrapped around you, imagine you're actually sharing a hug with that wonderful person. And it is such a relief. Feel that goodwill between you and your friend, between you and your loved one. When you're ready, conjure up an image of somebody else. If you're a Unity Church person, you can just go around the circle. Who's next? That sweetness that we share with one another. Accept that love. Know that you are not in it alone. Know that your hug means the world to somebody. You are here to fill up. We know that our physical bodies are kind of just imaginary. We are spirit. We are energy. So let's share some of that energy that we normally get from one another. Keep conjuring up that next person. You don't need to get through everybody during our time. You can do it some more later. But there are so many wonderful, huggable people in your life. And we've kind of been, at a deficit lately. So give yourself that. Give yourself that. We'll do this for a minute, just relaxing in the cosmic hugs you're sharing. You are so lovable. You are so loved. There are a lot of people whose eyes just light up when they see you walk into a room. And the time will come when we share those physical hugs again. But for now, what counts is how much you know that love is here for you. Think about it, appreciate it, feel it, We know each other. We believe in each other. We support each other. And before you bring your arms down, if you haven't already, just feel that love as you hug yourself and, give yourself just some really nice, gentle pats of appreciation because you do so much. You are carrying on. These aren't easy times, but you are carrying on and you are giving what you have to give and you are appreciated. And the love we share is a statement of absolute truth. It is absolute truth. Carry this love and these hugs with you throughout the hour, throughout the day, throughout the week for sure. It's always there for you. And when the moment is right for you, go ahead and open your eyes. And, our physical bodies are kind of imaginary, but they're useful. So let's really return to our useful physical bodies. One way to do that is to take our hands, touch your thumb to each of the fingers, just kind of tap, 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 tap. That just kind of regrounds us, reminds us where we are. Loved ones, I know that I am so much better off because you're in my life and because I got to spend this time with you here today. So that is my message for you today. Thanks for the time.
And that was, Karen, really fantastic. I prefer the whales to the ducks. I just wanted to say that. For the same reason that I respect their swimming a lot more. But I also want to say that, understanding where our concerns for the election are, I wanted to sing and play something that represents what I think we all need to remember to do as a country, as individuals. And the idea is to understand and listen to each other. And the problems that we're having right now are essentially people being intransigent, not listening, not paying attention, not trying to work it out. So I think this song, written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, really says it best. And I've always loved this tune. I know a lot of people said that the A section of this tune was written by Paul, and the B section, Life is Very Short, that part was written by John. But I don't think that's true. It feels like a collaboration because they fought all the time. And I think they were trying to make up when they wrote this tune. And I think it's something we should always think about whenever we're having conflict of any kind. We can work it out. Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on? While you see it your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. But we can work it out. We can work it out. Think of what you're saying. You can get it wrong and still you think that it's all right. Think of what I'm saying. We can work it out and get it straight or say goodnight. We can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime. So I will ask you once again. Try to see it my way. Only time will tell if I am right or I am wrong. While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. But we can work it out. We can work it out. Life is very short, and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. I have always thought that it's a crime, so I will ask you once again. Trying to see it my way. Only time will tell if I am right or I am wrong. While you see it your way, there's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. But we can work it out. We can work it out. Everybody, let's hope we can work it out. Thanks so much again for the chance to do this. I appreciate it so much.
And now please join me in a closing prayer, again from the Unity publication, The Comfort of Prayer. Let us pray. The perfect life of God is flowing through my entire body right now, doing its mighty work, cleansing, purifying, and healing anything that needs to be healed. The love of God lives in me as peace and strength. Every atom of my body is an expression of pure spirit and contains wholeness, harmony, and complete perfection. I am calm in every way, and so it is. Amen.